Hi guys, and welcome to the next video. This video is all about Windows. Since for now we used only Linux, we used only payloads on Linux, we used only commands on Linux, and now we have to get a brief overview about what is actually Windows, how it's working, and how we are actually penetrating that. So to start off, we saw that in the Meterpreter session we are acting at the bottom of the Windows. We did not interact with the graphical user interface, we did interact and open a new session with the terminal behind the Windows. And here is not called a terminal, it's called a command prompt, which is here. So this is the Windows command prompt, and this is something like a terminal running commands, but it's using the DOS structure of commands, not the Unix one. And I personally prefer the Unix one, so now we can close that. You can run this if you're not pinned with the menu and therefore command prompt. And from here we can run a lot of commands, and as you can see, this is the shell we managed to get with the Meterpreter. This is the same shell, but we run a new instance when we run the Meterpreter shell, so that it's not visible to the user and it's working behind the operational system, behind the graphical user interface. So this is what it looks like, just a black window with text inside, and the commands are quite the same. We have CLS for clear, CD, but you see that CD is not changing the directory. So if you go CD and then CD again, it's just printing the current directory. If you go CD as double dots, and if you go CD with double dots, it's gonna do the same thing, one direction back. And so the commands are quite the same. We have mkdir, we have actually echo, like echo, and we have like ipconfig. Here is just an IP, not an if. We have the ping, we have the tracert is here, tracert. Now we have the netstat, which we have in both Windows and Linux. And here, I'm just now gonna close that and actually open the PowerShell, which is more interesting. PowerShell. This is like the better version of command prompt. This is like the really better version of that. It supports and even some Unix commands. They are the same, I just say, and it's actually an object-based, object-oriented command line, which is really interesting and really actually helpful. There are objects for everything, and there are get and set methods. For example, get and just tap using a different parameters. For example, when we type get and start typing tap, we're gonna see different options. So for example, get former data, get alias. Alias is just the shortcuts, like you don't need to type the whole command. For example, we see here that we have get history, and it's done by typing ghy, so ghy, and it's the same thing like get history. Yeah, so this is the history of our commands, and the PowerShell, I say, is the better version of command prompt. It can do many more stuff, it can do a lot of things, and most of the commands are actually supported by Unix. They are just the same, all of them are the same, like for example the clear one, the ls one, we can list, and even the format is just similar. We have mode in these directories, as you can see, and we have some kind of permission here. We have the dates and we have the name, so it's just kind of same output. It's not like the same, but it's kind of the same. And we have a lot of things, a lot of objects to play with. We can, for example, set areas using different kind of commands, using different kind of objects. We can get their different kind of objects, like get processes, and there are all the processes, like the PS in Linux, and there are many more stuff to do here. There are of course a lot of documentations online, a lot of articles, a lot of stuff, and you need to get familiar with that too. So it's a good way to practice that again. So now just there are SQL, of course, and there are many more stuff here. Really, there's a lot of stuff. The PowerShell can do more stuff than command prompt can. And now there is one more thing I want to mention, is that the file systems, as you can see if I go to computer, now we have currently one disk drive, one partition, but we can have multiple here. And you know that they are quite independent. For example, the Windows is staying on that one, but if someone is wiped out, or even if that is wiped out, if I have other partitions, they are untouched. The information there is safe and it's not like deleted. So this is a really good feature about Windows. The information can be stored on different partitions and it's granting safety. And if the Windows falls down or other falls down, the other information is saved, so it's okay. So this is how the file system is stored. We have a control panel in Windows where there are multiple services and things, but the most interesting one is actually go for administrative tools. So here is where you need to get familiar with. These are actually the most actually administrative tools of the Windows. Here is where you actually can control your machine, for example the services here, and there are many options. You just need to come here and play around with them. They are simple, but they are many. We have a performance monitor where it actually loads everything about the performance, the CPU, the RAM, like a top command, but just a graphical interface. So yeah, we have the log files, we have many stuffs, services here, we have many different services. And the other thing we have to actually see is the actual firewall, so we can type firewall here. And from there we can actually go for inbound and outbound rules and actually enable or disable specific rules. For example, if I disable that ICMP4, I would not be able to get a ping anymore. And these are the firewall. They work quite the same, but the graphical user interface is just different. Don't worry about it, it works exactly the same as on any other firewall. The firewall principle is just the same everywhere, just working with rules and actually filtering all traffic. So Windows is just not that easy to work with the command line. It's not that actually comfortable, but it's comfortable to work with graphical user interface. And whenever you actually got a reverse shell and access that shell, you would need only to actually remove files. It's done by the same rm command. You can need to actually make folders. You don't actually not making folders, sorry, to actually escalating privileges if you have not any. And you will need to actually navigate through directories and see what's up there. And so if you need anything that you do not know the knowledge of, there's always a search engine where it says the exact command about the exact same anything. For example, in PowerShell there are commands like widget, which is actually downloading something from the web. In the PowerShell is done by creating an object and provoking that object, and it's kind of more complicated, but it can be done. So if you access the PowerShell, because from the command line you can actually go for PowerShell and access the PowerShell feature. So from there we can actually use the PowerShell, as you can see. And now we have more actually flexibility, integrity, and many more stuff. We have more power here. And yeah, that's it about Windows. I have few tips. The first tip is that always use PowerShell when you are possible with that, because PowerShell have multiple features and many more functionality. It is more flexible and more powerful. Always use PowerShell when you can. Be careful with the firewall, and of course our biggest problem of Windows is actually evading the antivirus. And we're gonna see how to evade the antivirus in future videos when we are talking about social engineering attacks. There we are going to explain how is the very possible way to evade the antivirus. Keep in mind that these softwares are actually updating very fast, and in the moment you are watching that video, that exact exploits cannot be valid. So you have to search for another thing. So this is about the Windows. Whenever you need, go for the PowerShell, go for the documentation, search for it. You have administrative tools where there are all the functionality about it, and you have the different drives when they are with different file systems and from Linux. So whenever someone crashes, that one is okay. And one more thing, if we actually see the permission, so the right-click properties, security, and then we have different kind of permissions, like for different users and groups. We have different permissions, for example, full control, modify, read, execute, this folder contain, read, write, and special permissions. So the permissions are different from Linux. They are kind of more complicated, more hard to explain. As you can see, from right click you can analyze it yourself. We have full control, modify, and all the others. So this is how the Windows permissions are actually working. And so we have different users with different groups. We can edit everything from here. And the cool thing about Windows is everything it's easy to edit just from right clicking and left clicking with the mouse. but the command line interface, especially the DOS one, is kind of complicated. So my tip is to get better at PowerShell, get used to PowerShell since it's more advanced and more cool tool. Get used to it, and that's for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. And actually, this is the last video of that module where we're talking about hacking and actually all that stuff. So you see what we did. We actually used our information and our vulnerability scanning information to choose an exploit, which eventually we found that it's not what we actually want. The idea was the same, but it did not work out that way we wanted. So therefore, we actually choose a different strategy to actually deliver a payload to that specific machine and to make it connect to us with the instructions of getting a shell. And after that happened, we get the complete control of that shell and we can do anything we want. So I hope you understand the basics of Meterpreter, basics of shell, basics of Metasploit, how to use Metasploit, and I really suggest Metasploit from Armitage because better get used to the command line interface. I really hope you understand how to use Metasploit, what is a Metasploit. I hope you really understand all that things. And in the future videos, we're gonna go over actually malware threats, malware analysis, where we can actually start programming. We're gonna actually use codes more. We're gonna explain all different types of malwares. We're gonna explain many stuff that you're gonna need. And yes, we are going to write code on C, on Python, on other stuff. So I hope you really enjoyed that module. Hope you really enjoyed that episodes. I really thank you for watching and see you later, guys.